Oh, lovely, thank you. Okay, guys, can I have you sitting at the tables, please? And a few bags of hush would be much appreciated. What are we missing? Excellent. So I flagged just before the coffee that I was looking at a recommendation. That's the one that I discussed with Mayor Holborough. So I note the further discussion with elected members will be required as part of the next step of the investigation. If I could, well, Jen, happy to move that. Someone care to second it? Yep, Nigel. That's great. Any discussion at all? No? All those in favour? Thank you very much. It's passed. Okay. Next is 8.2, update for the Kapiti Health Advisory Group work program. Council Officer being Gina, and members of the CAG group as well. Please, we don't quite have enough chairs. Yeah, perhaps, and Gina, we're being surrounded, Nigel. I'm being surrounded. Lucky she wasn't trying to sit down, Nigel.
The ladies over here wanting to know if you were available for moving everyone around.
Wow, it was a moment, wasn't it?
We were on our way then.
It was fun.
Right. Okay, thank you very much. How are we approaching this?
Cool. Kia ora. So just note this is the third update from the Kapiti Health Advisory Group that we have had on our series of updates. Today they'll be talking about the overall work program and a little bit on transport and budget. We'll see we've got a presentation there, and I'll just note that some of the figures in the budget information are slightly different just because they cover a slightly different time period. We've got 24-25 year on the presentation and just the 24 year in the information that was submitted beforehand. So as well as that, following on from the sign-off of the terms of reference, we had agreed to come back and do a budget update to SOF, so we'll make sure we do that as well. And I'll talk to the chair of the advisory group about doing an update on the work program for 24-25 as part of that update to SOF as well, so we can take that through this committee too.
And just for clarity, Gina,
yep.
Any operational budget sits within current budgets.
Correct, yes. So this is all just noting information for you guys. It's no increase or change to current funding or budgets. We'll cover it within budget we already have.
Lovely, thank you.
Otherwise, over to you guys.
Thanks, Martin, and thanks for that, Gina. And I'd like to introduce Diana Ponsford, who is chair of our Transport Working Group and is going to talk about transport. So in our In our update, I'll just touch very quickly, because I know you've had a long meeting this morning, on our 5 working groups, which are access to services, mental health, public health, children and young people, and transport. So last meeting, you had an update from Ian Powell on the compelling case we're putting forward, which is saying we're a community of 50,000 people, likely to go to 85,000, and we have virtually no services here. You heard that loud and clear, I'm sure, so I won't go into it, but Ian is pulling that case together. He's away for a couple of months, but he'll be back, and we hope to have a first draft ready by the end of July. We're meeting with the Public Health Organisation, who of course hold a lot of our information in terms of statistics, to give him the material he needs for the evidence base for the case. So We've also been doing things, we have met with relevant staff at Kapiti Health Centre, finding out, trying to establish just what it is they are doing there and what can be built on. And that group is also supporting work to build confidence in telehealth, which is more and more coming into our community and has potential to offer a whole lot of opportunities that we don't have at present. I think most of our medical centres are using some form of telehealth, and it's a case of people having confidence that this is okay. You don't have to see your doctor face to face. You can use the telehealth systems, which are very good. In terms of the mental health group, which is led by Graham Scott, and he'll be talking to you, I think, next meeting, that's working on analysis. They're currently working on analysis of data through Stats New Zealand to get a picture of what's actually happening in our community. It's very difficult to pull that one together because we just don't know, but he's pretty confident he can get a lot of statistics from the data that they collect and use them. And he also has to consider how you include ethnicity or not in that data. So it's quite a lot of work going on there. Oops. So public health, Don Hunt has pulled a group of really good public health specialists around him. He has a professor of public health. He has a very experienced expert, and he has a former mayor working with him. So together they're having a look at a lot of the things that council will look at anyway, but they're particularly interested in alcohol policy and use, and smoking and vaping, which we put a recommendation through you a couple of meetings ago, and also they're interested in healthy eating. So they're focusing on those three areas, and we'll look at them. One of the things that came up just before our meeting on Monday was the numbers of children who are vaccinated against measles when we have a pending epidemic is low across New Zealand. Kapiti appears to be not too badly, but still well below the target figures. And we have a recommendation to put to you that, I'll just find it if you'd like the wording. But basically we're asking that any chance you get Mayor Holborough or anyone gets to sort of encourage parents to look for opportunities to promote having their children vaccinated against measles. It's all a very important part of what we do, that encouraging and promoting. So that's our first recommendation for today, and I'll find the wording for that. Our children and young people's group, again, we've got a lovely group of people working on that, including a member of the Youth Council, Ollie Sterling, and it's they're looking at what are the issues in our area, and they're talking to a whole lot of groups, because again, getting that overall picture of what is actually happening in Kapiti hasn't been easy. So they're talking to groups all around the community, as well as to a couple of schools about what they're finding, so they can start to put together some sort of work program. They've sent a very brief, easy questionnaire to groups like Birthright and Plunkett, and they're going to be following up on that in the next little while. Transport, and I'm going to hand over to Diana, but I'd just say that we recognised very early in the timeline of CAHAG that when Kathy was chairing, that if we couldn't get services up here, we had to find better ways to get people into the services that we've got. And transport was something we've looked at for that whole period. And Diana's been a part of that for the whole period too. So we've had a few successes. We encouraged the establishment of a link between Porirua Hospital and Porirua Station and Kenepuru Hospital. So if you've got an appointment at Kenepuru, you can call their office, and the details are in the brochure, and they'll pick you up at the station and take you up to the hospital. So that's a big help to people who can't make it. We've supported CCDHB funded the Ask Wheelchair shuttle, which we supported them on. We've published a number of information brochures and posters. We were instrumental in having the toilets at Waikanai Station set up, which is, I'm sure, a very important thing. But for people who are travelling into the hospital, that's a long trip. And those toilets have been much used, and that was championed by one of our people. We also make sure that people who are from Kapiti have morning appointments at Wellington Hospital so they can use the shuttle. And we've also encouraged cooperation between various providers. And Diana's now going to talk about our current activity.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you, Sandra. As was said, I am the chair of transport for the Kapiti Health Advisory Group.
Sorry, Dan, I might just ask if you can move the
Sorry.
microphone over, because we've got a few people online as well.
Okay. And I'm also chair of Kapiti Carers. I believe that Kapiti Coast residents, as part of the Capital and Coast District Health, should have a regular bus service to and from Wellington Hospital. Kapiti Carers is not sustainable. It was started over 50 years ago and run by school mums who had some free time during the day to take residents to patients' appointments in Wellington Hospital. Fast forward to today, where many of the drivers and the coordinators are the same age or older than the residents that they're transporting. So what can we do? In the short term, as some of you may have seen, Ask and Kapiti Carers have an article in this week's Kapiti News encouraging people to use the Ask van for morning appointments, and Kapiti Carers looking for new volunteers again. In the long term, last week I had a catch up with the transport manager at Wellington Hospital, Matt Oak, and asked him about a bus for the Kapiti Coast. His answer was a flat no. They couldn't afford it, and with data I gave him on Ask's and Kapiti Carers numbers going to Kenepuru and Wellington Hospital, he said it wouldn't be worth his while. To which I said, it's a catch-22. If the buses were there, people would use them. He then went on to say that he thought we should lease a bus ourselves. He has contacts with motor vehicle companies and could get good prices, and he would put a business plan together for us. Great idea, but I don't think that is something Kapiti Carers can do. I've also had a contact with Alice Brennan from GWC, who are investigating community transport service solutions that are accessible and less expensive than private vehicles, including demand responsive specialty services for health and well-being, where regular scheduled local public transport services are not viable. This part of their LTP and is currently out for consultation, but they are currently reviewing the regional public transport plan, and public consultation will take place through September and October. At this time, KHAG will make a submission on community transport. And really that's all I have to say in regard to that. Thank you.
Thanks, Diana.
Thank you, Diane. I might just put a pause there, if you don't mind, just ask if anyone got any questions around the transport side of things, if that's cool. I've actually got one. If you're looking at a bus service into Wellington, how regular are you potentially proposing?
If Wellington Hospital did it?
Well, I'm picking that Wellington Hospital won't, but any service that ideally would be provided. I appreciate there's that weighing up of what will be fiscally and feasibly able to be done. But would one trip in the morning, one trip in the evening, or are you talking about just one trip down, one trip back type scenario, or multiple trips, or?
Well, we could do it lots of ways because there is a bus on the hour every hour from Kenepuru to Wellington Hospital. You could do it that a bus went from, say, Paraparaumu to Kenepuru to start with, but ideally we would want a bus really going from Paraparaumu to Wellington Hospital direct, because appointments start obviously at 9 in the morning, and so you would have a lot of extra toing and froing if there was just to be one bus. But one bus would be a good start.
And the Ask bus, the Ask transport at the moment, does that connect into Kenepuru on a regular basis, or?
They drop into Kenepuru on their way into Wellington.
Right,
Yes.
okay.
So they're going just for the morning appointments. So they leave the Kapiti Coast around 8, go to Kenepuru first, and then on to Wellington Hospital. And then they come back after the last appointment is finished of the morning appointments. But they're not doing the afternoons.
Okay. Nigel?
Yeah, and a couple of questions around transport. Is there a cost if people use the ASPA? Is there a cost for that?
Koha,
Oh, right. Okay.
yeah.
And I'm an advocate of extending the hours, the gold card hours, because a number of people. I mean, just if they don't, if you have to go direct to the hospital, then obviously the bus makes sense. But for people who can get the train and bus, etc. But with the gold card hours, of course, they run out of time. Very limited about what time they can get on, and anecdotally we know that there are people who just don't go because of the cost, so they miss appointments, etc. So, is the advisory group lobbying or intending to at some stage lobby the regional council about that?
Well, it's certainly something we can look at. Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. And I had another question about. Oh well, I can leave it. It's just about Kenepuru after hours. So.
Was there any thought to be submitting into the Greater Wellington long-term plan around transport at all?
Greater Wellington.
Yes.
Well, as I mentioned, we will be doing a submission.
That's part of the transport plan. Be good to keep an eye on that. Keep in touch with that. Yeah, Holbrook, is this in any way a conversation that ties into the regional transport committee or anything along that sort of line?
Not specifically, no.
That sort of high
But I'll
levels.
turn my mind to that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just it's an interesting one.
Yeah, and it ties in quite well because of the added delegation to this committee to consider matters of transport. So it's certainly food for further thought. Thanks so much for your presentation today and all the work that you're doing, and thanks for the support of Kenepuru. We're considering that at council this afternoon as well. I have to take off now, but thank you very much. It was good to hear the update. Thank you.
And just for the table as well, just part of what I'm trying to put in place is that we have an overview update from the group itself, and then we've got 5 different work groups, and I've got them on a rotation coming through. So it helps increase your level of understanding of what's going on in the space, and keeps it front of mind potentially when you get the opportunity to advocate in other areas as well. So sorry, Sandra.
So just 2 other areas of work that we're focusing on. One is the needs assessment. We obviously need a good evidence base if we're going to make a case to anyone about what we need here. So we've got a pretty sound and pretty good assessment that's been done, but we're building on that all the time, and we're meeting with Te Ora Compass shortly for some more information from them, and also seeking more information from Health New Zealand. And communicating, we have a number of avenues, channels that we use for communicating and keeping them up to date as part of what we'll be seeking some funding for. But we have a website and a health directory which still covers every health and wellbeing service on the coast and is updated because it goes through to the organisation's website so people can see what's happening there. And we do about a 2-monthly newsletter goes out. So that will continue. And now the issue of our budget.
Sorry, we just hold there for just a second. Does staff want to comment on the needs assessment at all?
Just a note, it may be something you're thinking about. You'll be aware that we've got our broader work around social needs assessment underway. The work that CAHIG are progressing around health is ahead of the work that we're doing. It will essentially inform that bigger picture. So obviously we're looking more widely than health. We're looking at a range of issues. So I think it's a really important piece of work. And I think that is really going to inform the next steps that we take in a range of areas. So a good piece of work had been done previously, and I think this is really updating that and being able to see what else we can pull in. So really excited to see that progressing, and what will come out I think will be really useful.
Fantastic, thank you. Sandra.
Thank you. So we don't really have any particular needs at this time for funding, apart from the ongoing maintenance of our website, our directory and our newsletter. And we'd like to have a hard copy available to people, and probably a little bit in the way of editorial work with groups like Kapiti News, so as we're getting some word out there about what's being done. I think that's going to ramp up as our compelling case comes through, but at this stage we don't see that as being more than probably around $5,000 or so. So I understand that that's within your...
Yes, definitely. So just to assure everybody that when we had, I'll say, reconfirmed the focus for KHAG, we had at the same time made sure that we had sufficient funding in our budget that we could support the good work that's underway.
And would I pick that some of the stuff will be picked up in-house? And Commons also on top of this from an in-house perspective if we need to get messaging out?
We'll be supporting the work that's done. I think KHAG is also looking at how they're working in the community and the independence of some of their messaging as well. So we're supporting both of those things.
And we really appreciate it all. Thank you. But just a couple of assumptions that we have in that budget, and they are that you continue to provide the secretarial support, which is just fabulous, and that we continue to be able to host the meetings here, that any specific tasks that you ask or that we put forward and you agree to will be funded by joint agreement. And if we needed to do anything outside of what you supported, we would seek outside funding. I can't imagine what that would be, but in the event that there was something, we would seek some outside funding.
Any questions at all?
I might just ask
Kathy.
one. Oh, Sandra, I know you've been really good over the many years sending out the newsletters. I'm just wondering how many are on your database now? Just so the community board members.
Yeah, we've got about 350 on the database. So anyone who would like to be added to it, please let me know and we'll send it out. But we're really pleased that the statistics show we have something like 75% of the people who receive it actually open it, which is
Very good.
high for a community newsletter. And we're really quite chuffed about that. So, yeah.
No, it's good to see that people are signing up, are actually interested. And yeah, that's fantastic. Well, thank you very much for the presentation, Sandra. I think we have some recommendations coming from the group too. If we could perhaps have those up on the screen for our officers, would be much appreciated.
The first one is
Just wait a second there, Sandra, just be a moment.
that KHAG supports the retention of the after-hours service at Kenepuru Hospital, including its pharmacy. Oh, sorry. I didn't realise you had them all pre-prepared there. So the first one is that we note with concern the significant measles immunity gap and epidemic risk, and recommend that the chair of the SBSB make a motion that the mayor, council and councillors encourage parents of potentially affected children to ensure they're immunised. It's such a scary possibility that there'd be an outbreak here.
Yep, that looks fine to me. I'm happy to move those recommendations. Kathy, you happy to second those? Any debate? No, I will note that the motion, what came from KHAG was slightly different, so you're happy with the...
That's fine, yes.
Fantastic, so if you will vote on that. Oh, hang on, sorry, Lawrence?
Thank you. Just a question. You were about to talk about something related to Kenepuru after hours, weren't you? Is that something that needs to be part of these recommendations?
Hopefully that's the second one coming, is it?
I don't have the specific wording from KHAG, but I do have a recommendation.
So we've got another recommendation after this lot of recommendations. So this is about a specific topic. Yep, okay. So, all right, so we'll do this one first. Nigel, you've got a...
No, I just want to talk about Kenepuru as well.
Oh, okay, that's cool. Johnny, did you have a comment?
Well, just regarding the vaccination thing, I think there's a few people here that sort of know my thoughts on that. I think the...
Sorry, Johnny, do you see the word vaccination up there?
Well, immunisation.
Yep, and it's specific about a specific thing, measles, which we're
Yes, that's
statistically
correct, but
very low on.
I guess the question I have is, and a comment that I've got to make is that there's possibly a slow uptake because of what has actually happened in the last couple of years, where people are more hesitant because
Yeah,
of
that's fair enough.
stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, I've had all my childhood immunisations. I've also had the measles too.
No, you bring up a very valid point, Johnny. Sorry to jump in like that. Yeah, I think that's been one of the side effects. If you said, well, appropriate use of words, but one of the side effects of that era has just been a lot more people wary in this space and perhaps hesitant in this space, and hopefully it's not going to be too much in the way of suffering in regards to that, and just building back up the confidence in that space as well. It's a very good point.
Could I just say that I understand exactly what you're saying, but I think too that there's a whole lot of much more prosaic and mundane reasons why parents aren't having their children vaccinated, and anything that can be done to encourage them to make the effort and have it done will help.
I just think that's going to be a bit of hard work, that's for sure.
Oh, I guess that's why you're asking for some assistance with regards to messaging, which is what this motion is looking at doing. So we've agreed on the recommendations. All those in favour? That's passed. Oh, sorry, any negatives? No. That's passed. There's another recommendation as well. Is that correct? Yes. If we could have that up on the screen from officers, it would be much appreciated.
We're recommending, and this is slightly different wording, but we're recommending that the committee supports the campaign to keep the Kenepuru Accident and Medical Clinic after hours open. And we would add to that the pharmacy, because that's an issue that's arisen just recently for us. But we'd strongly support that.
Are we wanting to add the pharmacy?
Including the pharmacy.
Accident and Medical Clinic and pharmacy.
Could I just add to this one that we're aware that Kapiti citizens don't use Kenepuru after hours a great deal. It averages about just over one a day calling in there, and only 3% of their patients. But it's an important facility for us, and it also we would like to support the rest of the area who do use it.
Personally, I think it's a double-edged sword with regards to that, and you had a presentation from the Wellington Free Ambulance, 7,500 trips down to Wellington Hospital, and I guess and we know there's only about 500 to Kenepuru, but the issue is not so much about that; it's the pressure putting on Wellington ED if it shuts, which I think would be a significant issue with regards to a department that's already overtaxed as such. Does anyone else have any comment on this? Yeah, Nigel?
Yeah, I 100% support this. Barbara Edmonds has made a very good case. I think the case that's being counter-offered is full of holes with some dubious economics. So, yeah, it doesn't. I don't think it even matters particularly that the numbers from Kapiti are relatively low. It is about supporting this, because we will need support in time for up here. So it's kind of a quid pro quo, and it's a good thing to be supporting anyway.
As part of a larger web on complexity, I also wanted to note Ngāti Toa's stance, very strong stance with regards to wanting to have this maintained open, even to the point of saying we'll put our own doctors in there if need be. Shouldn't have to come to that as such, but we certainly do support their views. The recommendation is that the Social Sustainability support the Honourable Barbara Edmonds MP for the Mana Community Campaign to keep Kenepuru Accident open. Everyone okay with that recommendation? This is a pass-through recommendation. What I mean by that, that's going to be coming up at the council meeting this afternoon. I just wanted us to touch base with it so that we follow the process of coming through KHAG to us. I don't want to start things getting the habit of circumnavigating, otherwise it starts becoming a habit and that sort of stuff.
Sorry, you don't need this movement here.
So, yeah, no, we just do we support the recommendation, and then that goes through to the mayor, who at the table, who the mayor will then do a letter on our behalf with regards to that as such. Yep. So all those in favour? That's moved. All those against? None. It was seconded by moved by Kathy. seconded by Nigel. And all in favoured was everyone. And so that motion's passed. Excellent. Thank you very much, ladies. Great having you in here. Great to see the fantastic work you guys are doing. Long may it continue. And yeah, and we'll just keep these updates and touch bases going. Will be much appreciated by everybody. Now, I was going to suggest we have another coffee break, but I think Stephen would wring my neck. So if I could invite Stephen up to the table from our housing team and have an update from them would be very much appreciated. I'm just looking for the number so that I get it right, which is 8.31. You got moved to the back. Sorry about that, Stephen, but that's all right. And again, this is part of the process of report backs coming in for areas of interest for our group. It's not necessarily a full report. From my perspective, it's an opportunity for the housing team to touch base and update us with anything that might have happened between now and the last meeting and issues or things that they might consider that we would be interested in hearing about as we move forward. I think it's important that we keep in the loop and we keep informed about what's going on as such. So fire away, Stephen, the floor is yours.
Kia ora. Before I hand over to Stephen, I just want to note that, and I guess lean into the chair's comments, that we have the housing strategy, and we're looking at the fact that we're progressing a lot of work, and that these updates that we provide will be interim updates until we formally come back and say, here's the housing strategy and here's what we've achieved against it. So we're really just wanting to make sure that we are indicating the progress we're making. You're aware of a lot of work that's happening, but I think it's really important to formally be checking in on these things, because you probably don't know this, but we do, that we have not done a formal update on the housing strategy in quite some time. So this is an interim step to that occurring, because we want to make sure that everyone can see the good progress that's happening. Now I will hand over to Stephen and he will begin that update.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I was asked. Good morning. So I was asked to provide a verbal update on the progress of the housing strategy. I think it's important to recognise that there's a lot of actions in the strategy, and we have some major pieces of work, the Affordable Housing Trust and the Older Persons Housing Review, but we are continuing with other actions, which I'll cover off in this chat. So I thought I'd start with the establishment of the Affordable Housing Trust, just to confirm some dates that are coming up and some progress that we've had. We'll be heading to a council briefing on 21st of May, and that will be on the council-appointed trustee. You'll recall we had a briefing on the 23rd of April, and we asked for nominations for the council-appointed trustee. That's heading to a paper to council that will be presented on the 30th of May. And it will be seeking approval to appoint a council-appointed trustee. In parallel, we've been talking with Te Whakaminanga o Kapiti about the trustee they will look to appoint. The discussions have revolved around Tiwak appointing a person to be on the board appointment panel, and then a person who would be nominated as trustee. In terms of the independent trustees, we've advertised for people who want to express an interest in becoming independent trustees, and there's a closing date of the 29th of May for people to apply. That's been advertised on our own website under our vacancies, but Sheffield, who you recall are working with us, are advertising on their site, on Seek, and on LinkedIn as well. There's been strong interest in the positions, which is really cool. And so, that's happening. The council-appointed trustee, along with the Te Whakaminanga appointed trustee, will form a board appointment panel, and with the support of Sheffield, will then appoint the independent trustees. So I thought I'd touch on other housing projects that we have underway, and this really indicates the breadth of the work that's happening around the housing strategy. Just a quick update on Rangiuru Road. You recall it's the site that we own in Otaki, and we are looking to progress a project around some design for a potential project there. We're going through a pre-procurement a stage of having some discussions with developers and organisations that work in the social housing sector who have completed projects recently, just to understand the best approach from here in terms of design, and that will inform our procurement methodology. Just as an aside, Darren Grant and I attended an event at KPMG earlier in the week, and Minister Bishop spoke there. There was a panel discussion that included a representative from a positive capital community financing organisation. And so we made contact with them. It was quite an interesting conversation. We managed to have a very brief conversation with the Minister and talked to him about the review of older persons housing. He seemed quite interested and indicated that he thought that the recommended approach was a good one. And so, yeah, that was quite interesting.
I just want to add to Stephen's points around financing, is that the team is looking at the opportunities. We've talked about partnering and setting up some trusts. One of the elements to that is to think about the support we might be giving for that trust to be able to get access to financing and other things to help them do the work they might do. So we will be coming back to you to talk a bit more about that. But that's what that conversation was largely around. So it looks like there might be an opportunity there. And I do think what might be useful, although the conversation with the Minister was brief, the Minister very much gave us a signal that now was the time to be progressing the work around our affordable housing entity as a wink to what might be coming from the current government. They're going to be strongly supporting a focus in that space. So I think the message was get on with it. Do it now. So I just thought I might share that as well.
So private housing.
Other projects that we're forming and working on, in the housing strategy, there's an action to influence typology, to attempt to change the typology of housing in the district. We have a shortage of 1 and 2 bedroom houses, a predominance of 3 bedroom. So we started a project where we will produce some user-friendly advice for people who are looking to put a unit or another 1 or 2 units on an existing site, and basically just make it's almost a pre-engagement piece of work so that people can get some advice, consider the options, and decide whether they want to proceed with that, but encouraging them to look at that. So we're working really closely with the regulatory team on producing that information. We've looked at how other local authorities provide information on their websites as well. We're also interested in exploring papakainga housing in terms of the support that might be required to do more papakainga in the district. So we're just going through a phase of investigating ways that we might be able to address that. We're looking as well about ways that we can support community organisations who have shown an interest in creating housing projects and building and looking at ways that we might be able to assist their capacity to do that work. We've also provided a grant to the Rapid Rehousing Advocacy Service and working with homeless people, and that grant will enable the service to keep operating till the end of the year at least, and it gives us the opportunity to approach central government that we've talked about before at the table.
And I just wanted to share, because I shared this with SLT this morning, is Stephen working with our advocates from the Rapid Rehousing Program and our compliance team actually, even just in the last week, had a really great outcome with someone who had been utilising a freedom camping space as a permanent, well, semi-permanent portable abode. But really they actually had wider support needs, and by and through our I'll say our relationship, our partnership with the Rapid Rehousing Program, we were able to actually help that person, the community, and improved our compliance action. So I think, just one small example of the real difference that has made through a decision that we had talked to you previously about. So that's a really positive outcome to share.
And just further to the comment about the engagement with central government agencies. So we have talked in the past about following up on the meeting that was with Vicky McLaren from Kaingaora, and we're looking to arrange a meeting with Kaingaora Ministry of Housing, Urban Development and Ministry of Social Development. I had been looking to arrange that at the end of May, but then thought actually it might be an idea to have the budget first, because government agencies are a bit up in the air at the moment in terms of their programs. So we'll be looking to arrange that meeting, and we will be raising the rapid rehousing advocacy, but also the allocation of Kaingaora housing.
That's a big one.
And yeah, I'm actually meeting with Tanya, the rapid rehousing advocate, because I want to write a really effective paper for that meeting, because I think it's about the whole housing system in Kapiti, and we need to talk about the fact that we have that lack of permanent affordable housing, which affects the whole system right through. And I want to produce some case studies to really illustrate where the gaps are and some of the real difficulties around people experiencing mental illness, for example, who are falling through the cracks.
And I'm picking that would lead also into obviously our community land trust work as well. With regards to not preempting is not the right word, but certainly have the information sitting there ready to go, rather than starting that work then as well.
Yeah.
Cool.
So they're the areas I thought I should highlight that we're currently working on.
Excellent. It's interesting. We've just been through the submissions hearings with the long-term plan, and everyone says we need to stick to our meeting. We shouldn't be involved in housing. We shouldn't be involved in health, and that sort of scenario. Steve represents a massive housing team of one, and I think the work that he that comes out of this space is phenomenal. And I just want to thank you, Steve, with regards to where we've been to where we are now. With regards to how we're getting, I think, exceedingly good bang for our buck with regards to the advocacy you're doing for us that way, but also the information and the kaupapa that you bring to the space with regards to what we're trying to achieve and that sort of stuff. So I appreciate the updates, because it just keeps us abreast of what's going on. It's much appreciated as such. Is there any comment from anyone? Nigel?
Yeah. Yeah, thanks, Stephen. I was just wondering about how directional we can be, if we had a mind to be, about the housing trust prior to there being a housing trust. Because my understanding is once there is one, we are hands off. That's what we're telling people anyway. So, for instance, a new housing trust, were they to engage developers, builders, architects, whatever, how directional can we be about saying, well, you should be prioritising locals, in that we should be in every regard. So I just wondering, so that's my first point, is can we be directional in that regard?
I think there's a couple of aspects to that. The first one is the trust deed itself. In terms of it, it's quite clearly focused on Kapiti. But also there's a relationship framework agreement that council will have with the trust. And I do think that's a really good opportunity to make council's views known and its expectations known. I think creating a collaborative environment where we're working together for the outcomes is important.
I think I want to add to that and say, we've recently, and this is not housing, but it is related, we've recently obviously announced that we are working in partnership with Mills Albert around an employment pathway. And the EDKB is involved. Obviously, Mills Albert is carrying the lion's share of this, and council is supporting it. And it's through the conversation and ways of working that things are happening. And we are looking to leverage council's supply chain to enable opportunities for on-the-job training. I think as we are partnering and working with others, I think it is what council brings to the table as well. And so the idea that we would be supporting local in a number of ways is definitely the kaupapa that we're putting on the table. And I will say, though, that the Trust as a charitable entity will also be wanting or need to work within some parameters so that it can be viable. So we would work alongside them as they are progressing, as well as the rest of the sector, to see how we can be supporting the sector as a whole to do some of those things, not necessarily just the Trust. But that kind of model is, I think, what council is trying to work on at the moment. Because, and I'm sure you'll respectfully agree, a contract doesn't make you do things. We can signal, but we can't make you. So I think the partnership side to this is really important, just as much as the independent side. So I think that will be something that we try and flavour in the way that we set this up and work alongside them.
Yeah, I'm completely comfortable with that. What I'm not comfortable with is where we are at the moment, but hopefully we are, as an organisation, moving towards supporting kapiti businesses wherever possible, subject obviously to massive financial variation. But like even with the appointment of a trustee, for instance, we're using Sheffield, which is a Wellington company. And there are a number of companies on the Kapiti Coast who could be doing the same work. The reason we use Sheffield is because we've always used Sheffield. I've got nothing against Sheffield, don't get me wrong, but they're a Wellington business. They don't pay rates up here, they don't spend money up here, they don't employ people here. So in every possibility, everything that's possible, where we can be engaging with Kapiti businesses, then I think we should be. But so leaving that aside, my second point was about you were giving an update about engagement with central government and how the ministers is being encouraging. Comrade Bishop isn't famous for his socialism when it comes to housing. There is an argument at the moment that this is a forerunner to the flogging off of what state housing there is, and so having these kind of entities will be helpful to pick up, because it might be that private doesn't want to pick it all up. So that's worth bearing in mind. But you're right, I think there is an environment that's coming that we could potentially be taking advantage of. But I'm not sure if the minister's talking about money coming with it.
I might just add, because there's two things there. I do want to ensure this committee that council operations does have a social procurement policy in place, and part of that policy is that we're leaning into local when we can, and we're doing a lot more work in that space to try and see where we can be utilising, I'll say, our supply chain locally. We also work off all of government panels, because in some areas we get I'll say a discounted whole of government, the whole public service price, and it's been negotiated through a very, very complex but thorough procedure to make sure it's fair. So anybody could apply for that to be on those panels. With Sheffield, I think I just want to be very clear that we went through a very strong process to determine the skill set we needed to help us be successful in the space, because we recognise for this community and this council how important this decision is. So we definitely do not make decisions around procurement lightly. We are thinking about those things. So I just want to put that out there and say, if it's useful, we can definitely share with you our social procurement policy and how we're looking to enhance the opportunities for local, because we are doing that. And I won't comment on our ministers and the political side of it, but will say I'm very aware that Minister English's, Bella English, gosh, I've got too far then, ex-minister, Bella English's review of Kāinga Ora will shortly be coming through. And I think with budget also coming out shortly, there's some anticipation that there's going to be further clarity around where this government is going to spend money, which I believe is more money. But it's where that money is going to be spent. So I think the signal we were getting is things like CHIPS or affordable housing entities are likely to be something that this government sees as an attractive investment opportunity. And that would be through places like Kāinga Ora and the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development that we would be starting to get a different conversation going. So I think that's the bit we're interested in, is how does that help our community and our district. So with the ultimate goal of there being enough affordable and social housing here to support our community, which I think we're all saying there's not. And in fact, you will get our 9-monthly report shortly. And one of the things we asked our residents about is affordable housing, and their view on it is that it's low. So I won't take the number, I won't give you the number because there's some excitement for SO and F for you. But I just want to say it's a thing, and it's something we think we need to stay focused on. So we're looking for every opportunity to get ahead of that game.
Sorry, just the last point is, it's not this committee. Presumably, it's SOF. At some stage, I would take you up on that. I think it would be a really good idea to inform council, and by doing so, informing the wider public about council's procurement policies, about big and presumably Kotahitanga board will be wanting to drive this kind of stuff along as well. Big part of what we do, it's about sending a really positive messaging to our local businesses that you count and you count first, subject to obviously some stuff. Yeah, cool.
It's just noting you, Kim, but I'll go on to Lawrence next.
Thank you for the update. Appreciate it. Can I just, unfortunately wasn't here for the 23rd of April briefing that you gave us around the council appointed trustee. Am I clear, I've had a look at the presentation that was given, the slideshow anyway. Am I clear that we are able to nominate trustees as councillors?
Yes.
Okay. How many have we had nominated so far?
From elected members?
For that role?
None from the elected members.
Okay.
Can I just note that we are going to be doing a specific briefing on this with you. So if you missed that briefing, another one is coming up.
So that's the 21st of May one?
It is the 21st of May one, because we wanted to just talk to you about where things were at. Who had nominated anybody, if that was a thing. Maybe it will be by the 21st. And just to check in if that's where you were expecting it to have landed. So currently, we had talked to you about two potentials, which we had put up on the screen, not their names or details, but some of their background. And if you haven't seen that, we'll make sure you
yeah,
it is. It is. Yeah. So outside of that, though,
obvious who they were.
yeah, it was obvious who they were. But outside of that, though, if there are any other people you think, hey guys, this should be somebody on the list, then you certainly should be pushing that through to us. I might send an email around to everyone just to remind you that you can do so, because I know not everyone's here. And then we'll do our 21st of May update.
Diane.
23rd of April, there was a presentation on the 23rd of April around council appointed trustee. I was away on the day, but...
Yeah. And we indicated that we asked for nominations by
That photographic memory of yours, Kiki.
3rd, I think.
It was by the 3rd of May when nominations. So, and I only found out about this
So,
yesterday.
I'm just saying, given that no one has sent anything through, I'm just going to do a quick round circle, just in case somebody would like to add a name. I think I'll say we're being generous in coming back to you to make sure we haven't missed anything.
Okay. It was suggested, yeah. I just didn't think I knew anyone, but actually I do know somebody as well that could be interested. Lawrence, anything? Kim, you've got your hand up online.
Sorry, I've been too slow in that space.
Kia ora. Yeah, I just wanted to, I was listening to the question about council and having representation. I just wanted to clarify for my own ears that this is an independent housing trust, isn't it? And so council can't give it direction, but they can express their views through their one trustee. Is that correct? They can't influence the decisions of the trust. It's independent.
Yes, it is independent. I should say, though, that if we were working on a particular project where council had input, there may be an agreement around there may be an agreement about how that, for example, if land was provided, that this be provided for this use, for that particular project.
Yes, but that's a separate issue than actually sitting and influencing the board table. That's an actual transaction.
Correct.
Of the trust.
So once the trustees are in place, there's one council representative, and that is it. So I think what we were just trying to lean into with Councillor Wilson's question was setting up the trust and our relationship framework, the importance of that, because once they're in place, it's now up and running, it's independent.
Yeah, no, thanks for that. And my other comment is around what Councillor Wilson said around choosing who we work with and local for local and things like that. So just from experience in dealing with Crown agencies, and I know the environment's changing, but there seems to be a tendency that I don't want our trust to fall into. There seems to be a tendency to think that the only way you can do this is with some huge housing development firm that comes from outside this region. And I would love for us to look at other more collaborative options, because I think you will find that if you collaborate and you're actually involving the community and the businesses in the community, you can get that capacity. It may not come all in one shop, but it is definitely there. And I would hate for us to start down this journey with all the good intentions and end up like your run-of-the-mill chip that brings in a large development company from outside, and then we don't get any what we call not legacy outcomes, but ongoing outcomes. So we don't get those outcomes of building a community labour force, hiring within the community, working together with other groups, notwithstanding that obviously there's cost involved and efficiencies, understanding all that, but there are more outcomes to be had if we work as together as a community to build houses than just putting up a house. So that we capitalise on those as well within this trust. That was my only comment.
No, thanks for that, Kim. Oh, sorry.
Just to add to that, we've had conversations with some quite big players around who are involved in social housing developments as developers, but they're very keen to work with us and talk about local procurement and using contractors locally. So there is quite an emphasis on that.
And I think maybe the other side of this is working in partnership. I think there's a very strong opportunity and I think definite intention that we'd be looking at who can we in this trust partner with in our community, without obviously naming different entities or stakeholders or partners. I think the way forward for success for the trust would be to not doing it by themselves, particularly to get community support for some of the things that might be potential options. So I think when we get to the stage of looking at our trust deed and our relationship management framework, we'd be looking to build that kind of expectation or intention into the way that ideally that trust would operate. Of course, independently once it stood up, but that would be some of the things that we'd have some expectations around.
Cool.
Just to follow up on that, thank you. Particularly your email follow-up for us as councillors and nominations. Could you, as part of that, make it clear what the obligations for the council-appointed trustee are that are separate or different from the independent trustees in that? Because obviously they're council-appointed, so there's going to be some expectations that we're going to have that will be different for them than we will for the independent trustees. So it would, I can't find anything that makes it clear to me what those responsibilities would be or expectations from us as council would be for that trustee. And before I nominate someone, I'd want them to be clear on what I'm nominating them for. Does that make sense?
We can, but maybe in short I can say to you that the difference between the council-appointed trustee and other trustees is that they will obviously have a connection back to council, and that they would be and I think have a relationship in terms of coming back at the right points in time to talk about things that were coming up, because their purpose is to be able to give a voice from council. So we'll be looking to work through what that looks like. You are right though, the rest of the trustees would not do that. And it would be the same for our, I will say our mana whenua representative, as they would obviously have a connection back to mana whenua, so that the views of mana whenua were brought to the table through that person.
Great. I just want to be clear, because I got someone I could nominate potentially, but I want to know that one, they'll be happy with getting put into a position that involves some pretty strong connection with council. Does that make sense? Yeah.
And of course, there's also the ability for those people to just be standalone.
The potential for them to apply for an independent trustee rather than council appointed. They want to know the difference and whether it's worth them being council appointed or just stand for independent trustee. So, does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I think so. Any other further comment? Fantastic. I'd like to wrap this up. I don't think there's any recommendation or thing of. Is there a noting? Yeah. Sorry, a page reference for that? Hang on, page 8. Okay, recommendation that the Social Housing Sustainability Committee note the receipt of an update on the Kapiti Coast Housing Strategy Work Programme. Have we moved that? Have a seconder? Nigel? All those in favour? Aye. And on top of that, Stephen, just thank you so much for all the work you guys are doing. And Chris, that's supported by you and your team. Having been at the last council when we started this journey to where we are now, one question I would quickly have, if we're looking at perhaps capitalising on the opportunities that may be coming up, when is what sort of time frame are we actually looking to have the trust set up as an able to function per se? And
we'll be looking for, obviously we need to appoint the trustees first.
I'm not looking for something in concrete here, just a rough indicator.
I think we're wanting to work with you intensively over the next 6 months to have effectively, if we say landed the trustee, the relationship management framework, and having the trustees in place to start to say we're in action mode of stand-up phase, to also identify a project or two, perhaps, that might be, that would have your support for consideration of the first things that trust could conceivably be given to progress. So we have a couple that we're going to be coming and talking to you about. We did mention to you that it's probably going to take 18 months to get through all the things we need to do.
That was my concern.
Yes, but we're going to be trying to go as quickly as we can. Any project that is going into the trust for their initial stages, we will be looking at the opportunity for partnership we will be looking at the opportunity for us to support that because we'll be very aware that they are just getting up on their feet. So there's a few things that in conversations for us to have with you, but we have got between the next 6 to 8 months we've got quite a program to come through and chat to you about. And I think maybe at our next update on the 21st, and then following that, we can give you a bit of a sense of what that next 6 to 8 months looks like, so you can see what's coming, because there's a lot.
No, that's fantastic. I just, we're talking about being able to capitalise on opportunity that might be presenting itself shortly. Just seeing whether we're in a position to do that as well. But I've got complete confidence in you guys with regards to our approach to that. Nigel?
Yeah, just through the LTP hearing process, we've had people saying that we are allegedly consulting on a housing trust, but we've actually already made up our mind about it. I was just wondering if there was a response to that.
I do have a response. I just want to assure you and anyone listening that we've previously consulted on standing up an affordable housing entity, and we have been progressing steps with you post our community saying that they supported it. I think there's been a bit of confusion because in this LTP, we've been talking about our older person's housing, which we currently have, and we've been asking the community or suggesting the community that actually we may not be the best place to continue to manage that. An option is to transfer it into an affordable housing trust. That decision has not been made. Outside of that, there's a couple of other projects that council has been looking around or at on social housing and affordable housing. Irrelevant to the decision that happens around older person's housing, we will continue to look at those options and opportunities. So we at the moment are not working on older person's housing in the construct of this affordable housing trust because you have not considered it or made a decision. If you make a decision that it seems like that's the way to go, we would need to undertake further work to actually go through steps of working through what that looks like, what the options are. And I don't want anyone to think I've said, hey, do this. But one of the options is whether one affordable housing trust could do all of the things we're talking about, or we really need to think about how to set it up. So many more conversations to go. We're at barely opening gate for the older person's housing conversation. The stuff we're doing with the affordable housing trust is way ahead of that in terms of we've got some ideas that we're coming back. We have got this and the opportunity and what's required to progress these other options in the LTP. So it's not a massive cost for council because we're proposing that it's in partnership and or I just mentioned before the financing opportunity for an independent entity to progress some things. So we're working very hard to go. Can we do some things for our community in a with minimal impact for our ratepayers that actually addresses some of the issues we have. So I hope that answers that question.
Sorry, yeah, it certainly answers it for me. It's just it's nice to have it out. So
Yep,
the public
I
can
think getting the
get through
clarity was really, really good.
Because during the LTP process itself, we can't really be engaging too much. It's kind of in asking people questions, but you can't say you've got that wrong. But that's cool.
No, thank you for the clarity on that, Chris. Excellent. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. The update's been much appreciated. We'll see you in 6 weeks. Righto. Moving along, I haven't forgotten you, Kathy. Confirmation of minutes, 9.1.
Wonderful meeting. Brilliant.
So on that note, you happy to move that, Nigel? Happy to second that, Rob? All those in favour? Okay, that's passed. Thank you very much. I want to come back to 7C, members' items. Kathy, you had something you wanted to talk to? I can't remember, sorry. Something about a recommendation or something, wasn't it? Ah. Yes.
Just wondering if we could have at our next meeting some update or report on where the skate park is at McLean Park, Parapara Umu Beach, please. It's just, it's been a bit of angst out in the community about this, a whole big mess down there and nothing's happening. And now it's going to be January and not before Christmas. And so I just thought,
Should we pop that on an action list, and we can ask officers for a report back at the next, again, similar, I don't expect necessarily a big report, just coming back and talking to us where things are at, and the issues we've perhaps got in the shorter term we can address respective officers directly as ward councillors,
that's
perhaps.
right. And if we could include in that as well, that because the young people are unable to use the hoop, basketball hoop, if we could have another hoop somewhere on McLean Park, so young people have got somewhere at least to go and do something.
Yep.
Because it's a huge mess down there, and there was nobody there yesterday.
Yep.
You know.
It's a very valid point. Thanks, Kathy, and as ward councillor, thanks for bringing it to our attention. And I think you and I can perhaps work on this one directly as well.
Yep.
Cool. Thank you very much. I am conscious of time, but we're nearly there. Is anyone else? Johnny?
Oh, it's just on the note from the last minutes that I was to provide an update from the community board's liaison group with the Kaingaora housing. So they have met.
Oh, yes.
Unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend the meeting, but one of our board members did. But I guess the update is there's no update. Kaingaora is still wondering what to do. I think they're, like we sort of heard before, waiting for all the budgets to come out and things like that before anything sort of happens down there. But,
excellent.
So I'll just keep updating.
Maybe just keep us in that loop. Each meeting will be much appreciated. Thanks, Johnny, and my apologies for not acknowledging that. Anyone else? Going once, going twice. Sold. Okay. So doing a closing karakia, and I haven't been practicing this. Oh, sorry. Yes, we did the minutes. Yep. Hey, cunning, eh? Slip that one in. So, closing karakia. Ka tau nā manakitanga ki runga i a tātou katoa. Ka hui e ti mā kihikihi i ki ana. Katoa, kato ti kapu, kato ti reo, kato ti wairua, ka tau ti Māori. Ki roto i a mātou mahi katoa I tini rā, humie huie, ka tie. May blessings be upon us all and our business be successful so that our words endure and our language endures. May the spirit be strong. May Māori be settled and in balance. Among the activities we will do today, join, gather and unite, forward together. Thank you very much. The next social committee is on the 20th of June. And just noting to everybody, lunchtime now, and we have a council meeting at 1:30. Thank you, council officers, for your attendance. Much appreciated. I thought that was an excellent meeting and nice and informative, and it's nice to see our little system coming together.